Thank you very much, Dr. Troy Allen. I acknowledge Mr. Malwin, Senator Marshall, Inspector Ragay, and of course the beneficiary, Audie, and all of the other distinguished ladies and gentlemen here this morning. This morning I reflected on what we're doing here, or we're about to do, and just as Sir Malwin would have indicated, I thought that the interventions that we have made through Happy in assisting the poor and vulnerable to own properties, that it is representative of the heart and soul of my administration. In fact, the greatness of a nation and its people is based on its generosity, how we treat with the poorest among us. And today, you are witnessing a tangible example of our charity in which we are helping one of the poorest families in the community to own a home. And let me remind you of Corinthians 1:13, in which it states that the three most significant things are hope, faith, and love. And evidently, charity goes with love. And we recognized long ago that we could not depend entirely on the private sector to help us to uplift the poorest of the poor, that the government itself had to intervene and to ensure that we do not allow any family to fall through the cracks, and that where we see urgent need, that the government ought to step in and to assist. I recall a couple of years ago that the Audi family suffered from a tragic situation in which the rental property in which they were living was actually burnt out. To the extent it was brought to my attention, I visited the family to recognize that they had no facilities, no water, no electricity, and the entire property was actually burnt out. And I went to the cabinet. I said to my colleagues that, we cannot have this family living under such squalid conditions, considering too that she has 5 young children. All of them, I believe the oldest is about 14 years of age. At the time, she may have been about 12. So we took a decision to intervene, and today we're at the stage in which we're handing over property plus furnishings valued at about $170,000, I'm told. And this is a gift to this family, in which we are uplifting the family and empowering them, literally transferring to them wealth that they did not have in the amount of $170,000. And it shows too that my administration is indeed a caring administration, and we're providing housing literally for individuals at all strata of the society. You'd recognize that we have housing through Happy, and that is to take care of the poor and the indigent, the most vulnerable in the society. We also have the affordable housing through Chapter and National Housing, in which we're helping to lift individuals at the lowest strata of the society into the middle class by subsidizing their homes. And we subsidize each home to the tune of about $150,000 each. So every time a person acquires one of those properties, their wealth is actually increasing by at least $150,000. Now, you know too that we're also embarking on a strong social housing project, so that we're now looking at poor communities, and we are now pursuing the rebuilding of those communities by providing them with climate resilient homes. We have started in the Booby Alley area, in which we will spend up to $50 million to build out climate resilient homes. And what we will do, we'll literally swap these climate resilient homes for their old dilapidated homes. Again, transferring wealth to those individuals and creating an environment in which they could enjoy a good standard of living. Now, we also expect to ensure that all of these homes are climate resilient. The minister would have announced that we will make solar panels available in the near future, in which they can also reduce significantly their electricity bill. Now, one of the other initiatives that we'll embark upon, again with the Ministry of the Environment, is that we will equip these various communities with a significant amount of fruit trees. And that is part of our Zero Hunger program. So a family like Audie, for example, if perchance, they find themselves in any difficulties in which is unable to provide, at least they can go pick maybe a mango, sugar apple, some form of fruit. No one must go hungry in this country. So what I'll suggest to Minister Joseph, and certainly the Minister responsible for social transformation, the Junior Minister, is that we work together to enhance these communities. So I would expect to get a number of fruit trees, even ornamental trees as well, to beautify these communities so that they look good, and at the same time you have these fruit trees in which, and not only that, even to encourage healthy nutrition. So rather than eating all of these sugary snacks and the processed foods, that they will have ready access to these fruits, which ordinarily they may not be able to afford. So I want to suggest early in the new year, if we can get the Department of the Environment to donate the plants. I also think too that in terms of ornamental plants, the entire area should be populated with coconut trees, even palm trees. So let us beautify these communities so we can uplift the standard of these communities. I also want to encourage all of the beneficiaries of these various homes and these communities to keep these communities clean. The issue about the indiscriminate dumping of garbage, I mean, you'd have to be poor to be clean. In fact, the poorer you are, is the more conscious you are to be about your surroundings, because you don't have a lot of money to spend on healthcare. And we expect that all communities should be properly manicured and properly kept, and that garbage will be disposed of responsibly as we seek to empower and to uplift our people. And again, I'm very pleased to be presiding over this project. My administration is an administration that cares, and we will continue to go the extra mile. For those who say that the Happy program is nothing, when we spend millions of dollars building homes, gifting homes to people, it is even more economically strenuous than funding a school meals program or a school uniform program. And many people would have underestimated the importance of this social housing project, the Happy Project for the Poor and the Indigent, but it's millions of dollars we're spending to improve the living standards of our people. On average, we do not spend more than $1 million on uniforms. And if we're spending millions of dollars to provide social housing for our people, then evidently my government would have gone the extra mile to uplift the people. I just consulted with the senior minister, and he has advised me that we need to increase the amount for the social housing project for the Happy program. So we'll be increasing the amount this year to $5 million. And we expect to continue to build on that. And the reason why we can say boldly we're going to increase it to $5 million, because we get an extra 2%. And the 2% that we're getting is not to waste. It's to use it to empower the people of Antigua and Barbuda. So I want to say, generally, to all of us here, to all Antiguans and Barbudans, when our detractors try to make the case that this 2% is draconian, it is not. In fact, we are still the lowest taxed jurisdiction perhaps in the world. We know for sure within the Caribbean region, lower than any other country within the Caribbean, and significantly lower. So whereas they are at 25% of GDP, we're at 19%, to be precise 18.5%. So any case that our opponents try to make to suggest that a 2% on one tax, in which a number of food items are already exempt, I would have called them before, all our basic food items, sugar, rice, cornmeal, eggs, you name it, they are exempt. So in other words, they would not be increased by 2%. And we chose that tax specifically because those food items are already exempt. So there will be hardly any impact on the poor and the vulnerable. And I say this to say that we expect you two to be champions of this cause, because the more money that my administration gets is the more money to spend on the people. The more on education, the more on health care, the more money that we spend to pay creditors. We have several creditors here who have been providing services to government and we can't pay them on time. Why should we continue to build up arrears when we can simply increase the tax situation, I say nominally, not to hurt anybody, nominally, so that we can pay everybody. So again, I want to close by congratulating all who have contributed. Certainly Ms. Baltimore for her hard work and dedication. And the person who I really have to give a significant amount of credit is Inspector Raggi. Inspector Raggi started this program even before the government got involved. And I remember at the time the then minister called in, I said to her, look, we have to institutionalize this program. This is such an excellent program. We can't leave it exclusively to a private person or to the private sector. Let us get in there and let us fund this program. We've been doing so, and many people would have benefited, and there'll be many more families to benefit as we ramp up this program and we make more resources available. So, once again, congratulations and thank you to everyone who contributed. And I want to say to the family here that you should cherish this property, maintain it properly, and use the opportunity to uplift the entire family. I mean, Miss Audie, you have a young teenager, and you have a responsibility now to set the standard of living for her so that she could, let's say, operate within a beautiful home environment, one in which she can perform with her peers or even outperform them, and at the same time to uplift your family so that she and your other children, as they grow up and they become adults, they can lift the entire family out of poverty. Once again, thank you very much. And I say happy Christmas to everyone. Do enjoy the Christmas. And I also hope that 2024, which promises to be a very good year for us, that will be a good year for every citizen, every resident in this country. Happy Christmas.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Well, he didn't have on the red suit.